Money is one element, yes, but your health is actually very, very important.
Forcing them to borrow 30,000 from relatives. They're now struggling with that. As a freelancer, how can I avoid the same situation? Okay.
You try to always exceed your target so that you have more than enough to cover on months where you have shortfalls.
But when I suffered stroke, my policy barely covered half of my rehabilitation costs.
Personal insurance is a must because insurance is actually a building block, right? It's a hedge. It's a security against something that may unexpectedly happen. I don't feel that we should depend on a company, even though I've been a corporate person and my company benefits were quite good. Because guess what? If they lay you off, there goes your insurance, right?
My policy didn't cover pregnancy-related critical illnesses. Why do women's health risks often overlooked in standard plans?
I totally feel you because for me, after my sports accident, I was almost total permanent and disability.
My elderly parents' dementia care costs 3,700 a month. Are there any ways to go about caregiving without sacrificing my family's future?
Now there are some policies that cover dementia.
So today's episode is brought to you by Proactive Crisis Guard, which is the first in-market protection plan that provides clear coverage with payouts based on serious medical treatments you undergo. Some interesting features will include 100% payout of up to 200,000 if you require organ transplant or an open surgery on major organs, or receive payout when you require cancer treatment. Most importantly, right, the key is you receive payouts based on treatments and not complex disease definitions. So if you want to find out more, check out the link below. And now back to the show. Welcome back to Chills with TFC. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut, and we are back today with another special episode. My favorite segment. This is not financial advice. Tin Fa. Okay, you heard it first. So in the future, anybody hashtag Tinfa, right? Then you know this is a TFC IP. Essentially, we'll answer some of your questions, and today is in collaboration with Prudential and their product Proactive Crisis Guard. So we'll talk a little bit more about the product later. More importantly, let's start with introducing our friends of the show. So maybe introduce yourself for our audience that somehow don't know you. You know, it's been like the nth time you're here. So
I'm better known as Minimalist Dave. Okay, I'm a financial coach. At the same time, I also run this blog called Minimalist in the City. That blog about personal finance and minimalism. So recently I blogged more about behavioral finance. So that is something new that I'm engaging in nowadays.
What has changed? Why do you start to focus on
Because
behavioral?
after all the personal finance, all the technical
CNRD,
stuff, the numbers, the expenses tracking. So the next is more about observing like emotions, behavioral changes among people.
Okay. And we have two friends on the show. You know, for our audience that don't know you all, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ita from Prudential. I'm a private wealth consultant. I've been in the industry for 20 years and a mother of 3, though I don't look like one. I'm also a financial coach in my company where I guide my mentees. I believe in early plannings. Like now, I'm also guiding my daughters as young as 3 years old. I already guide them how to do
A bit too
financial
early.
planning. Yes.
They got other priorities to learn.
Aside from study.
This stress.
Yes, they also earn their own funds to fund their travels. I mean, values is very important to us. Yeah, so we want to teach them out of the textbook context.
Okay, at 3-year-old,
Yes.
they funding their travel to the playground.
Exactly.
Right? So they can go to the mama shop and buy the thing.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll hear more about it later. And John, you are back in Singapore.
Thank you for having me again, Reggie. Hi, everybody. In case you don't know me, I'm John, one half of the Corporate Breakout couple. So my wife and I, we have been financially free since 2020. And we have the privilege and we were very blessed to have stayed in Penang for the last 3 years. That's how we got the last session with Reggie. He came all the way to Penang in a very chill cafe, remember?
Yeah, it's true. It was a very noisy background actually. But it was a good recording in the end. It worked very well.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
and they brought me
we run a
around.
YouTube channel and my wife and I, we strongly advocate financial literacy, and that's the reason why we're here today. It's also talk about personal finance, and we also talk about breaking out the rat race, early retirement, and about that. Well, I'm not a financial advisor, so this is also not financial advice, but from a
The
layman's
title already
perspective.
say already, this is not financial advice.
That's true.
Tinfa, okay? Thank you. Very clear.
Nowadays must qualify.
Yeah, qualify.
must
Yes. But just to be clear, you are back in Singapore.
That's right.
Just now you were telling me Penang getting a bit boring. You want to share with our audience?
Oh, okay. Don't take words out of my mouth. Okay, I wouldn't say boring. I think every in life there's different seasons. So for my wife and myself, we early retired in 2020. We actually started in Singapore because there's a COVID lockdown. So 2022 we shifted over Penang, and that has always been a plan. But we knew that we were just going to be there for maybe about 4 to 5 years. But of course, it accelerated to 3 years because while my parents are aging, I'm Singaporean, my wife is from Penang. So we spent a bit of time with her side of the family, and we feel that it's the right time to come back. And yes, Penang Island is very interesting, very exciting in terms of tourism, food. But I think in terms of maybe opportunities, I mean, to be very honest, compared to KL and Singapore, it is not as... It's not quite there. People there are a bit more comfortable, more laid back. So one of the reasons why we decided to shift at Singapore is, Singapore is where all the action is, right? Yeah, that's the key reason.
It's a privilege to be able to be laid back, right?
Thank you very much.
As part of our Tinfa segment, once again, we ask you for your questions. So you usually find it on socials. We do the shout outs there. And if you want to be updated, sign up for our email list. We will connect with you directly so that you can get to ask your burning questions, and together we will answer them. Okay, so today we're going to focus more on planning and some of the insurance burning questions and all those good stuff which actually is all over the internet. A lot of people are very curious about these things, so hopefully we can provide you good thoughts, okay, and ideas for you. So let's start. First story. So the first story comes from Mei Ling. Okay, Mei Ling is a 29-year-old freelance designer. This is what she asked. Okay, so I have no employer insurance. Okay, freelance is like that. Freelance life is not easy. Okay, I have no employer insurance, and I have heard horror stories of friends' sudden heart defect requiring surgery, forcing them to borrow 30,000 from relatives. They're now struggling with that. As a freelancer, how can I avoid the same situation? Okay, my income is not fixed. Yes, you are a freelancer. Sorry, I will get cancelled for that. But that's the function of freelancers, right? You get freedom, you get to manage your time, but your income is not fixed. Yes, especially when my clients are on holiday. Then yeah, maybe it is what it is. So yeah, open to the floor. Anybody got any thoughts and ideas for Mei Ling?
Yeah, maybe I can start sharing first on the fixed income part, because I myself am also entrepreneur, but yet I also been in the corporate world for many years, 10 over years before becoming an entrepreneur. So I understand the differences between being having a fixed income and variable income, or fluctuating income. So the bad news being a freelancer is that you don't have that fixed salary coming every month. So it does create a bit of anxiety in that sense, right? But the good news is because everything is totally in your hands. So I love that about being an entrepreneur, because the sky's the limit. You don't have to cap yourself to a certain earnings every month. So in order to combat a situation like this, which is kind of a financial situation, right? I say it boils down to discipline, because there are months where it'll be better, there are months where it's not as good. Actually, it's the same as investing. You can't expect your investment returns to be the same every single month, same every single year, right? There's ups and downs as well, just like the stock market. So in terms of being a freelancer, I think you got to be very disciplined to carve out how much you need for each month. What's your target? So there are months where you have more, some months where you have less for shortfall, but otherwise it will form an average. But more importantly is on the budgeting side. So budgeting is something that you can control. I would say insurance is a fixed cost, because insurance, like your food costs, let's say you have a house, you have utilities, all these are fixed expenses that you can already calculate, right? So let's say you need 2,000 or 3,000 for that. So you already know that that's the baseline amount that you need. So whatever that you are working as a freelancer, you must always make sure that you have more, and more for savings and investments as well. So I would say one of the tricks as an entrepreneur is you try to always exceed your target so that you have more than enough to cover on months where you have shortfalls.
Just to add on that, right? Essentially, you are seeing a whole trend of fractional work or like gig work, or you can agree or disagree with the trend, doesn't matter, but it is a trend. You're seeing more and more people end up in such a situation, right? What I would say, if I may kind of add on this, right? Essentially is I believe that at some point you should try to separate your business finances and your personal finances. I'm not saying right from the start, because some people say right from the start you must register a company. Or to be fair, freelancers for a start all tinkering, right? You test first, see if it can work. But at some point, when you can separate the finances, actually it's not just a accounting problem anymore. It also gives a lot of sanity in terms of business not so good, but I'm drawing the salary. On the months that business are good, I draw salary for my own business, and that salary is fixed. And from there, I can then manage my finances. Right, so I personally think that is the right way forward, right? Rather than mix everything together.
So let's say you are sole proprietor, right? Your personal finance is kind of mixed with your business finance. So in order to separate it, right? Let's say you have a private limited, and you fix yourself a drawn salary as an employee of your own company,
Yeah,
right? That
yeah.
will solve the problem. So that's how you segregate your personal and business finance. Yeah.
Exactly. And sole proprietorship, you are liable for your business
exactly.
problems, right? If you set up a company through this method, right, you have to take a 30% cut when you're applying for mortgage. All these are little things and tricks for all you freelancers out there. Yes. Any other things,
For me is for I do get you for entrepreneur or business owner, while building your own empire, you have to lay a strong foundation, isn't it? You do not want to go one step forward and then two step backward because of unforeseen circumstances. So having this solid foundation of to make sure that all this risk management is being ring-fenced is essential. In fact, it's the basic needs for you to be forward looking, right? Yeah, so that's my thinking.
Yeah. But what about the coverage part, right? I mean, you're the one that's supposed to tell us the,
Yes.
the coverage part.
Okay.
So yeah,
So
give us a
the-
bit idea, because I think a big part of her question is because of this anxiety, right? You don't have a fixed income, and then you see some of your pals around, and something happen at home. That whole spiel. So yeah, any thoughts, and you can give advice because you are licensed. But this
Yeah.
is not financial advice.
Okay.
But yes, you can tell us.
It's really very, very simple. You just have to make sure that in Singapore, in the event of hospitalization, that's the major and the majority of the bills. In fact, me myself, one major accident cost about just 100,000, and all these are entire covered. You want to make sure that your hospitalization expenses are being covered. At the moment, it's up to 95%, and after which you have to make sure that your income replacement have to be covered as well, just in case for certain months we are down with loss of income. At least there's some income replacement to tie you through this difficult time. You are ring-fenced in a sense.
Okay, fair.
Okay, so for myself, I think I've been a sole proprietor, a business owner.
It's
And
been
then
everything,
I've been in corporate
Yeah,
for
yeah.
very long, and then now I'm a
I remember-
self-employed again.
Long time ago, you set up the shop at the bus stop, right? Is that the one?
The
There was
bus
a-
kiosk.
You remember there was a period of time there were kiosks at the
It's
buses.
a franchise lah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
like-
I remember that.
He ran some of that.
I was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
brave one who started it. So, but then it didn't end out well. Okay, that's another
That's
time for
another
another
story,
story.
yeah.
Yeah, correct. So I went back to corporate. So I went into banking, and then I realized like now I went back to self-employed. Right, I felt like, wow, I missed the banking benefits. Just now, I think, John, you told me about you came back because of aging parents. I face the same problem. The other challenge that I have is the young kids. I mean, I could have, if I don't have the young kids, probably I would have done the same like you to go to another country to stay for a few years. But with the young kids, I think it's a bit challenging. So in terms of risk management on my own, nowadays I think about if I want to become self-employed, my wife need to be employed in a sense. So like I can tap onto her benefits. Yeah. So this is a very important consideration for whoever is doing like freelance work, right? You make sure if you are single, I think you need to be well covered. But if you are a couple already, right, your consideration will be very
Got
different.
strategy.
Yeah, you got to strategize even more. Lah. That's my strategy so far. So I am tapping onto my wife's coverage. And then, of course, I have my basic coverage also. But mostly they are all in term plans. It depends on the needs, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, it works for me. Yeah.
Okay. So yes, we hope we answered your question, Mei Ling. Yeah, and you can put in the comment section, if you have any other ideas and any thoughts, right? So that will be the first one. Okay, we have others to cover. So since we talked about banking, so the next one is a banker, right? So Theo, okay, 45, he's a banker, and this is his question, right? So I presume it's a he, okay? So Theo, 45, banker. I've been paying premiums for over a decade, but when I suffered stroke, my policy barely covered half of my rehabilitation costs. Specific rehabilitation cost. Okay, what should I have done instead? And if it's too late for me to make changes to my plan, how do I do better for my kids? Worries of Singaporean parents, worry for your kids, right? Worry for school, study, everything. Oh my goodness. So yeah, any thoughts? So essentially, Theo has paid premiums for a decade. When he suffered stroke, then he feel like, oh no, never cover my rehabilitation, barely half.
Yeah.
To
I
be
think I
exact.
have a thought on this.
Yes,
because
yes. We don't know exactly what he bought. That's
we don't know what he bought. Okay,
yeah.
because I think a lot of corporate people, right, they actually have all this like corporate insurance. Like for banking, our insurance is very, the benefits are really good. Like it cover your kids, everything. So basically, I don't have to pay out of pocket for the last decade.
That's why
until
we
when
all
I
stay
came out.
there, right?
Yeah, that's why we all stay there. Then when we came out as a self-employed, right, then the consideration become very different. So I think it's important that out, whatever corporates you are working in, you still need to pay for your like the shield plans, the hospitalization, because it's not transferable across like corporates. So that is a very important consideration. But I did have that in place, and I have all my term plans for my death, all this in place. But I realized like there's a lot of people actually don't have that. Like a lot of foreign bankers, they came out to work on a few years secondment, then they don't have that, and then they totally rely on the bank. So once they're out of the job or in between job, right, and if anything happens, right, they are not covered at all. So that's a very important consideration. Yeah.
Just to add on that, right, because that is on the positive note, where the bank give you good coverage. There are some companies that give horrible coverage, right? And the part is, although they give you subpar coverage, right, when maybe you were not in the company for a long time, you just joined, but you already have your own coverage, right? Then you join a company, then the coverage not very good, but all those things are factored into tax. So just to be very clear, all your benefits are taxable. Yeah, so there are scenarios where you might want to reevaluate, company benefits to see whether is it really worth it or can you renegotiate something with company because you don't want to move out a tax bracket, right? So these are all real life things for a lot of working professionals, and not all companies give good benefits per se. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'd like to weigh in on this. I actually have a contrarian view to what Dave shared. So I started working in a corporate, right? I started working at 25. I believe in insurance because as a broader part of financial planning, I mean, somebody who's financially free, I plan all the way until the day I go. So whether it's retirement planning, insurance, expenses, everything should be factored in. So therefore, for somebody who's starting out to work, let's say you work in a 9 to 5 job, I feel personal insurance is a must because insurance is actually a building block, right? It's a hedge. It's a security against something that may unexpectedly happen. And in this case, 45-year-old, right, banker, right, still young. I think 20, 30 years ago, there's no such thing. Right? You don't really hear 40-year-old people unnecessarily getting stroke. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Stroke, heart attack. And personally, my wife and I, we have quite a few friends who actually have that. And they're in their 40s, some in their 30s, and some in their 50s. So it's very scary how illnesses are just unexpectedly happening these days. So in terms of a building block insurance, right, I don't feel that we should depend on a company, even though I've been a corporate person and my company benefits were quite good. Because guess what? If they lay you off, there goes your insurance, right? So the next month you are laid off and then you are unemployed for that 1 month before you transition, for example, to a new job. What if something happens? So, and personal insurance is something that it should start when you are young. It should be something that should be reviewed at least every few years. Because when I first started out, 25 years old, my pay is not as much, right? So it's actually quite a big chunk of my pay, right? Whether it's life, permanent disability, right? Critical illnesses, all that actually, some of them actually came in a bit later. So that's when we review, right? Correct me wrong, you are the expert, right? So it's good to review every few years, and as our pay increase, but we should still commit to insurance. Things like hospitalization, all that is a must. Again, that one you don't have that backbone, right? I mean, the good thing nowadays, the government also mandates you must have. So part of your financial planning, the insurance piece is something that we should start as early as possible, so we pay lesser premiums. But at the same time, you can be very creative, right? That's why I also have my own financial advisor. So it's good to sit down and understand what is it you need. Like I always joke with my wife, right? Hey, tomorrow, if I go, you'll be 1.5 million richer. I mean,
that's not the house view. That's not house
Yeah, but I believe in coverage, right? Depending on the liabilities that I have, right? What if I go, so the mortgage for this house, right? For some of us, okay, so for my wife and I, we got no kids, but people with kids, so you got to plan in your kids' education, you got to plan in your car loan, all these are liabilities. If your insurance, touch wood, somebody goes, right, it needs to at least cover all this and more, so that your other half will not lead very stressful already without you, right? So that's my point of view. So it's a very important building block. But having said that, insurance is not everything. You should also, look at personal finance in other areas like investing, making your money work hard for you, your budgeting expenses. That is the whole holistic approach to financial
And
health.
I think since 25 till now, the landscape has changed.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
It is true because when I started 25, my life insurance, then compared to the one that I added on, I think 28 or 29, different. The coverage is much better later. Even more so now, right, with all the funny illnesses and all that. Yeah.
And I think MediShield Life has also expanded its coverage. So there's a lot of things that have changed over time that I think, reviewing is part and parcel of the process, right? So there's actually somehow a middle ground, right? In some sense, right? You want to kind of price in earlier to get the benefit, but you got to kind of adjust the numbers, as you go through such a situation. situation, like, banker don't want to doubly tahan the
Yep.
banking. Sorry, doubly. You know lah, right? Corporate life very difficult lah, right? So, so this whole spiel lah, yeah. So
Okay.
anything else?
Yeah, when we propose to our client, right, we share this. If you put all this expectation on your company, right, you probably will not ring fence entirely because company policies will change every now and then, and you do not want to subject to their changes. And for your information, it's called company benefits. It's just benefit, it's not entitlement. So some of my clients, right, share some cases with you. They thought they are very, very the coverage is very high. And, I remember this case 15 years back, and he got into accident, lost one of his leg, and the coverage is, guess how much? 5K sing.
Wow.
5K. And I was shocked because many, many years back, I wasn't that experienced, to be honest. When he told me that, I got very right coverage, right? Then I assume. And then I realized that you cannot assume for your clients, and it's true. You got to go back to your policies, your company policies, and your own portfolio to review to make sure that you are adequately covered. At least keep pace with inflation, yeah. And I would like to share this proactive crisis guard. This is a 5-year renewable term plan where it covers 3 major illnesses: cancer, stroke, and heart attack. It covers ICU if you are admitted in the ICU for at least 5 continuous days. I would like to share this because usually when you talk about we just started work, probably 1 or 2 years into the industry, and finances are really kind of tight, and you want to have some coverage as well. And also with the hospitalization, non-cancer drug list, you want to enhance your cancer coverage as well. It's like a term plan. And then later on, as life stages change and your financial changes along the way, you can always convert it into a whole life plan when your finances permit. So I would like to share about Proactive Crisis Card. It's a term plan. It's a 5 years renewable term plan. So it's suitable for young people who just started work. We do understand that you have very limited finances because there's so many dreams that you want to pursue, right?
Not that because they don't even have work now. Hey, very hard. Young people have a hard time. Working professionals. Yes.
You can consider this term plan. I give you an example with 100,000 coverage. If you are in your 20s, early 20s, 30s, it's only 20 plus per month. And it covers you 3 major illnesses like cancer, stroke, and heart attack. It also covers you major open surgeries as well.
So today's episode is brought to you by Proactive Crisis Guard, which is the first-in-market protection plan that provides clear coverage with payouts based on serious medical treatments you undergo. Some interesting features will include 100% payout of up to 200,000 if you require organ transplant or an open surgery on major organs, or receive payout when you require cancer treatment. Most importantly, right, the key is you receive payouts based on treatments and not complex disease definition. So if you want to find out more, check out the link below. And now back to the show. So move on to the next story from Alison, 33. She's a new mother and works in the legal space. Okay, so pardon if I butcher this word. Postpartum cardiomyopathy left me unable to work for a year. My policy didn't cover pregnancy-related critical illnesses. Why do women's health risks often overlooked in standard plans? Am I missing something? Yeah, she's very unhappy, I can tell. Yeah. So, and not dissing you, I would feel very unhappy also if, some of these things that commonly experience that, it's not covered. So, any thoughts?
When she talks about coverage, is she talking about this hospitalization plan or a lump sum payment?
Critical illness, so it's a lump sum payment.
Because this is not actually very common in the definitions. You see, when we have a critical illness, early stage, all these have to be in the definition of the insurance. So this probably is one of the case. Unfortunately, is not covered in the plans, in the terms and conditions.
Okay, so what would you advise her or any young mothers?
So,
this is not financial advice.
Yeah, this is really... I mean, we cannot foresee all these unexpected illnesses or accidents, right? So we just have to make sure that the majority of the bills like hospitalization plans and income replacement if you are self-employed, all these are covered to make sure that just in case we are down with all these illnesses and accident, you'll be covered as well. Having said that, just work out regularly to make sure our health is at the tip-top condition to embrace this. Because I totally feel you, because for me, after my sports accident, I was almost total permanent and disability. We don't have this thing called like when you are half total permanent disability, you have half the income replacement. There's no such thing. So for me, I don't satisfy the definition of total permanent disability, and yet I'm down. Imagine my career, my work, I have to involve a lot of walking and all this. It's basically, you just need to, while recovery, right? You just have to make sure that if you are doing physiotherapy, all these are covered. These essential expenses are being covered. Then we can manage the risk. That's why it's called risk management.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Because actually, I only went into critical illnesses a bit later. I think I took a third policy in my early 30s. So that's why I covered the critical illnesses. Thank God there are those that, you know, at the end of the expiry, then when it matures, I can take back. So there's a way to also make sure you have kind of money for savings set aside. And I think in today's world, illnesses hits us in all angles.
I don't think it's just today's world.
I mean, today, compared to 20, 30 years ago. That's what I'm saying. So critical illnesses also got different types. Got early stage one. Yeah, I didn't know that until I actually spoke to my financial advisor. So that's even more important, right? So there's all these things that you just mentioned earlier is important, because that's when you need the most help in terms of financially, and then you cannot work, right? So I think critical illnesses is a very key component nowadays, with more and more funny illnesses coming out and having a more comprehensive coverage. So like maybe 20 years ago, insurance, it might not cover the same, correct me if I'm wrong, the illness today. So we need to be updated in that sense. Yeah.
But it all boils down to price. Right?
Yeah, for
ultimately, you know, as a risk management tool, you got to manage in tandem with your personal finances.
So the active crisis guard actually is not bad, because it gives you the flexibility, right? 5 years, right, I mentioned. So 5 years, you can actually plan. 5 years is not difficult to plan. And then 5 years later, you can always choose to convert, right? Yeah. Can do another term again?
You can do another term.
Higher. So that's part of the game plan of financial planning. You cannot not have one. It's like saying that I invest everything in one type of asset. Okay, sorry, I'm a multi-asset investor. So I don't believe in just in one.
Else.
I mean, now if you're a gold investor, you are smiling because of the terrorist war, right? The stock market is not doing very well. But then again, that's part and parcel of any stock market. So it's the same principle of hedging. You want insurance because you want to hedge. When you hedge, you want to make sure that you have a peace of mind, whether it's you or your spouse, one of you go, at least you know that your kids, your family, your house, mortgage, everything is taken care of. So that's something that I always advocate as well as a piece of financial planning. Even though I'm not a financial advisor.
This is not financial.
Yeah. So for I did buy gold. So I'm also multi-asset. So I can speak. So I can smile.
Suddenly,
but anyway, I think one important factor people should factor in when they were young, right, is about insurability. I think insurability is very important. It's like a lot of people, they already have all these illnesses. They can't even buy insurance. Yeah. So I think if you have this plan to kind of like start off, like I'm looking back like during my younger days, entrepreneur days, right? If I could have afforded like a bit more for this kind of insurance, so I can have more leeway to budget for other stuff, right? Then this might kickstart. I mean, as the income grows, the entrepreneur, the business grow, then probably like the 5-year renewability, right? It will kind of like let me consider like, oh, should I upgrade the plan? Because my life stage will have changed during that. And the amount of coverage I would need might change. And then the other point that I think you highlighted very importantly is the early critical illness. Yeah, I think early critical illness is something that is amiss in my portfolio initially also. So initially it was just the 30 illness, the very old 30 illness. Then after that, nowadays got early critical illness, intermediate critical illness. Is like we're talking about a lot of conditions. It's like up to 100 over condition, which we also don't know most of them. So I think it's very important that we actually do the review and then see if early critical illness, because if you get early critical illness, right, it's very important as in it can help you tide over that period of time. And the chances of you recovering from early critical illness is very high. Yeah. So I think that should be part of your consideration when you are thinking about reviewing your portfolio. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to add, critical illness, the mechanics of critical illness is quite simple. Essentially, X equals payout. Okay. So now the definition is what is considered X. So last time it's only the small handful of critical illnesses, and then there are some providers that will signal a few, of these things and they put together as a different plan, and then now got more and more other things. So essentially, that is the mechanics. Don't be embroiled in all the messaging and all that, right? You just need to understand X equals payout, right? So how much of the X do you want to put in this bucket, right? And at what cost, and what's the payout? Right, so that's kind of how I look at the formula, and I hope to propagate this message more. More people should think like that. Last story is from Raj, right? So Raj is an IT director, 42 years old, and his question is, my elderly parents' dementia care. Wow, I hear this opening already very sad. It's very tough. Okay, my elderly parents' dementia care costs 3,700 a month. My daughter's university fees are at 20,000 a year. I'm draining my savings to balance both. Are there any ways to go about caregiving without sacrificing my family's future? Oh, this episode very heavy. yeah.
It's like a sandwich generation.
Yeah.
It's like many of us. Yeah.
For dementia, now there are some policies that cover dementia. So again, I'm not sure whether he got this policy, the parents got this policy when they were many years back. And then for children's education, I mean, I have 3 daughters myself. So I'm very grateful that I'm in this industry where even before they are born, right, I already get policies for them to make sure that they are ring-fenced, or rather my assets are being ring-fenced, because if anything happened to your family members, your financial, if they are not planned, then your financial will be as good as gone, right? So I ring-fence my whole family, my entire kampong, to make sure that my financial portfolio, my assets are being ring-fenced. And of course, if the older generation, he is 42, so I'm assuming that the older generation, they have this taboo there where they do not talk about insurance at all, they do not want to suffer. You don't face it doesn't mean you won't get it. Right, so probably us as a sandwich generation, some of us unfortunately might hit this. So moving forward, what can you plan to make sure that your next generation will be intact, will be protected? I would say that we must be forward-looking, because what is done and pre-existing condition definitely will not be covered, because insurance company at the end of the day, they are not charity, right? Yeah, we have to be fair. So you are covered when you're healthy. It's not because you have money. Money is one element, yes, but your health is actually very, very important. So moving forward, what can we do to do better? If your children are still young, like mine, right? I mean, we can get plans that cover ourselves to make sure that even though we are not around, the plan still continue as a token of love for your family. Yeah, as for our parents, we really need to set aside the finances for their long-term care. In fact, we should start to think of setting aside some for ourselves, for our long-term care, because we do not want to be a financial liability if anything happened to us and our children follow the footsteps.
Just to add on, I think it's very important that, okay, this answer is from an entrepreneur investor angle, something that's different. I understand the circumstance. You have kids tuition, you have aging parents, dementia, so naturally the expenses are high. So expenses is something that you can see and something that is, that's going to happen. So probably this person is salaried, right? That's my assumption. So
IT
you have a
director
fixed
should be
IT
salaried,
director.
yeah.
So you are kind of you have a fixed salary. So now how about this? Instead of succumbing to circumstances that you cannot control, in this case, your aging parents with medical conditions, how about thinking of ways to increase your income in other ways, right? So instead of like, I'm in this very poor state, I got this expense, I got that expense, I need to dip into my savings, why don't think of ways to increase your income in other ways? There are so many ways to increase your income. It can be through a passive method like investing, it can be through other side hustles that you can, build your skill set, that you can have more dollar per hours. So there are actually ways out of the situation. Yes, it's not a situation where it's the most pleasant, right? You probably got to be working hard because you are sandwiched, right? But at the same time, think out of the box. Think of ways you can create value to increase your income. Then that will definitely help the situation, right? Now, in this case, you have extra income, not only to cover any caregiving expenses that you may have, but you also have income for your own retirement, and you don't have to dip into your savings. So that's what I would, advocate, because time is within your control. You don't have control over your family situation, but you have control over your time, right? So that's something that I can, as just a suggestion.
Maybe your daughter should work. Hey, maybe your daughter should work.
As a part-time.
I know not everybody will accept it, but it's part and parcel of growing up.
That is another way.
May develop a stronger individual. But yeah, any other things you want to add?
I would think that I'm the sandwich class lah, basically. So I have all this in my mind many times. But then the growing needs started only like when my kid is still young. Then my parents start to be aging. And then I realized like, wow, okay, there's a lot more than what we could expect. So in terms of planning, I think planning early will be very important. Some of my clients' cases, right, they didn't plan for their education fund like only like 5 years, then they plan for the education fund. Then they realize like, oh yeah, my kid managed to get into Cambridge or Harvard or whatever, right? But then they can't get sponsorship, they can't get scholarship. So they
Then
have to
don't go.
self-fund it. Yeah. But then,
Then
they
don't
feel
go.
very bad.
Yeah.
They feel very bad when hey, actually my kid qualified to go, but don't have the money.
Then you are
and don't
not good
qualify.
enough. You're not, and I don't mean it in a Suan Xiao way, right? Okay, to be fair, these universities are for profit. Okay,
Yeah.
the only ones that are really gonna get a leg up, right, are the people that get the scholarship and then get the university. They go in, it's like a true train, then they come back, they move up the ladder very quickly, right? If you got to, squeeze everything, right, just send your kid to these places, right? The upside, I would argue, is marginal. Right. Yeah. Of course, there's no concrete evidence, but so far that's kind of how I observe the situation. Yeah.
No, but I agree that education fund must be planned way in advance.
Yeah, way in advance.
Yeah, because when we have stack savings, it's a lot easier to build a nest, right?
Yes,
Rather
correct.
than you only work on it in the last minute.
So they kind of like face this problem nowadays. It's like, wow, a bit too late. Now you want to sell your house or whatever. So a lot of people, they do the reverse mortgage, all this stuff, right? Just to send their kids over there. I mean, there are a lot of methods to do it.
Yeah.
It's just that it will be better if you can set aside something for them already so that you don't have to make major changes to your lifestyle. Yeah. So I think that's an important consideration.
Yeah. And I would say for Raj's case, right, that's the easy part, The tough part is the dementia parents. Like what Itak say, right? Insurance are not charity.
Yeah.
So don't expect anything out of that. I do think the state probably needs to expand, in terms of its protection of the people if these problems are to be solved, right? And if the fact that he bring it up, that means I'm fathoming a guess that he never planned for this already, right? So this is already an ongoing situation. So yeah, we need to rally some sort of a national arrangement, or we talk to an MP or see what's possible. Sometimes IT director, right? That means a good earning working professional, right? Feel like their problem are not big enough to go to the MP. But actually you can. And I think you should, right? The state, I've had many people ask me these questions, right? But at this stage, only the state can support you, right? There's no other way around it. This is my point of view, right? Of course, not barring all the, do other income, all these are all true, right? But barring all of that, I think this is one avenue of thought, Okay. Wow, I never thought today's episode will be so heavy, But yeah, I think those are very good questions. I appreciate your questions and your stories. I would love to continue to engage all of you, So put your questions in the comment section. We may pick it up for the next Tinfa, or whenever we do a shout out on our socials, you can sign up or you can join our email list to, stay updated whenever we want to do an episode like that. Okay. So in closing, any last things you want to add? Any things you picked up in today's episode? Last words for our audience?
I think having a proactive approach is always the most important. So having yourself financially literate, in this case for insurance, and everything is got to do with your health, right? While money is important, health is actually something that I personally feel that a lot of working people, they neglect, because rather than waiting for the illness to happen, why don't take a proactive approach to work on your health consistently, proactively, to even prevent such cases from happening? Not just your physical health, but also your mental health. Mental health is something that a lot of people don't really know how to manage, in my opinion, like stress. When stress kicks in, maybe your IT director, how do you know what's your stress levels? How do you know whether that doesn't morph into, something that developed internally from you that actually potentially go into a cancer, cause a stroke, cause a heart attack? And that, why I'm saying this is because actually many of my friends, my peers are actually like that. It came unexpectedly. And some of them, they exercise. Some of them, maybe they even eat healthy. So we never know, right? So the efforts to proactively take care of health should be an ongoing one. Whether it's on physical, mental, emotional health, your peace of mind, all this got to do, your sleep, all this got to do with your overall well-being that will ultimately give you a better chance of living longer, living well, having a more health span apart from lifespan. So these are some of the things that I would strongly encourage anybody who is at any age to take care of their health.
On today's session, I really enjoy it because I learn different
Of
perspectives
course you enjoy
from
it, lah.
the
This is the best show.
gentleman.
right?
Yeah, exactly. So I just wanna share this. Been in this industry for 20 years, and I've met so many cases, and met so many claims, and I just want to share. I mean, life, like what he said, is really unexpected. You really have to be proactive, but more importantly, take charge of what happens to you. And the mindset is very, very important, because when you are down, trust me, nobody is going to be there to help you up. You are responsible for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones. So whatever adversity, right, always remember, probably this is another level that the universe is trying to guide you to make sure that you can uplift yourself, level up, so that you be better.
I think being proactive is important. I think I still kind of like take care of my health
You
as
do,
my I do take care
He's
of my
the only
health
one
a
that
lot.
chill me for a walk. Everybody just want to eat. Only.
Yeah.
So
So just basically walking is good enough.
Yeah.
You're walking, you're eating, you're sleeping. But also in your back of mind, right, you also need to take care of like unforeseen circumstances. That's where the insurance of limiting that downside risk is so important. Everyone is thinking about investing, the upside potential, but nobody is like kind of like thinking about the risk side, the downside risk. Yeah. So as a risk manager in my previous life, I think the downside risk has been very underrated. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like everyone always think about the upside. Yeah. So I think that's a very important consideration if you are planning for your family in terms of protection, in terms of your investment, all these things. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for your time. I think we had a great discussion, although it turned out quite heavy. Heavier than I thought lah. I think it's a question mix, right? In the future, we will, get a good mix of other questions. I cannot everything so tang, So, but yes, once again, I want to thank Prudential, and today's episode is brought to you by Proactive Crisis Guard. Go to the link below in the comment section if you want to find out more. And we hope you enjoyed today's episode. We'll see you in the next Tinfa and the next Chills with TFC. We'll see you next week. Meanwhile, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.